Hello and welcome to episode 143 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is May 30th, 2022. Today I'm wearing a shawl that I did not make myself, but it was crocheted by my sister. And basically the shawl itself wasn't made by her, but it's a kind of mesh thingy that was already done, and it's like black and red and has a bit of glitter in it. And then back in the day, several years ago, it was very fashionable to be using this novelty yarn, this hairy kind of yarn. And what you could do is you could just crochet around this mesh and then create a crochet shawl or stole or something. And I quite liked the look of it, but I thought it was really boring to do that. So my sister decided to do that for me. But instead of crocheting around every row of the mesh, she only crocheted every other row, which I think was a good idea. And it means it's a bit lighter and a bit airier, but I still like it a lot. It's quite big. It's really long, as you can see. It's fairly wide. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's a very nice bright color, has this little bit of glitter in it, but I don't really wear it too often. But every now and then I do, and I think it goes really nicely with my dress. And this is the Promise dress. I think it's the first crochet pattern that I test crocheted for Heather from HGDC, and I really enjoyed crocheting that. This was another project that I crochet during some holiday. I was on holiday when she was not releasing the pattern, but when she sent the pattern out for testers. And I remember crocheting all the colorful bits during the holiday. And then when I was back home or back in the shop, I joined all the squares in with black yarn. This is the length of the dress, so it's a rather long dress. I did 3 rows of granny squares in single color squares. Then I did 2 color squares for 3 rows. And then the upper squares all have 3 colors. I started off crocheting those 3 color squares. That's what the pattern calls for. But I found it takes a lot of time and a lot of weaving in of ends if you do all of them with changing the color after every row. So I decided to do some 2 color squares and some just in 1 color. So with the sleeves, I did the 3 kinds of squares, each 1 row. That's part of the reason that I didn't do long sleeves. I'm not quite sure. I think the pattern calls for long sleeves, but I'm not too sure. But I really like the way it came out. This is a pure cotton. It's the Catania by Schachenmeier. I used a 6mm needle, which is really big for this kind of yarn, but it's the only way I could get gauge. And because I was test crocheting, I really wanted to get gauge. And I must say, I really like the way the dress looks and wears with the fairly loose crochet. So I think the yarn calls for 2.5 to 3.5mm needle, and I used a 6mm needle. Even though I am a tight crocheter, it's still a lot looser than most people would crochet this yarn. But as I said, I really like the way it feels, and it's fairly soft because I crocheted it loosely, and and it's a really simple shape, as it's just the squares put together, so you have straight lines everywhere. But really like this dress. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Then on to my knitting. And last week I did not really knit. Well, I'm not quite sure whether I knit and crocheted less than I usually do, but I worked on fewer projects than I usually do. And I think that's mainly because I wanted to concentrate on the projects that I didn't have with me on holiday, but still I didn't work on 2 of those. But anyway, it's just a fewer number of projects this week, so maybe I'll get through them a bit quicker, but maybe not, we'll see. But I'll start with my I'll start with my finished objects, and I have 3 finished objects this week. I'll start with the socks as usual, and I finished my crochet heel shorty socks. So this was a sort of bonus pattern for the sock madness that we got got for Easter, so to work on during the Easter holidays or the Easter days before the next round started. And basically the pattern just told us how to do the heel flap in Tunisian crochet. I decided to do it in a contrasting color, the way the pattern suggests that you do, and then I used the same color to knit the toe, which is an idea that I saw with many other knitters who knitted this pattern, and I really, really like the way this looks. So this was some leftover yarn, both of it. The grey yarn I used last year for some Sock Madness socks, and the colourful yarn, don't even know what I originally did with that yarn. But yeah, funny, it's a funny thing that the colours came out almost the same on the heels. That was not intended as usual. But for the toes, I just knit this toe from the other end of the yarn ball to make sure they really come out differently. And as you can see, the light and dark in the grey yarn is a bit different in both of the socks. So I'm quite happy with that. This is the Black Dragon colorway, one of the Black Dragon colorways by Opal. It has this black thread that's sort of plied into the yarn, which gives us this special look. And yeah, I really like that. So these are my crochet heel flap shorty socks. So that's finished object number 1. Then finished object number 2, I'll show you my mystery gnome by Sarah Shearer. This is her 9th mystery gnome. The pattern is called Make No Mistake, and the last clue came out yesterday and I finished her. Her name is Gnocchi, Gnocchi I think is the proper pronunciation, and I think everybody knows what she looks like by now, so I'll just show her. If you really don't want to see, then you have to look away, but I don't think so. So this is her. This is Gnocchi. So you already know the hat with a nice mushroom and this funny beard. Then there's a little bit of color work down at the bottom, and this is her shape. So her shape's really different from all the other gnomes. She's not round as the others, but yeah, I think Sarah calls it more like an oval. I changed 2 things, or basically I changed one thing. The one thing I changed is I should have knit 2 more rounds in the pink, but the pink yarn, I finished this ball of yarn and I would have had to start another one just for those 2 rounds. So I decided to do the 2 rounds in the dark blue. So the dark blue just begins a bit earlier with mine. And then she said the beard is supposed to stop over the color work, so it shouldn't hang on top of the color work. So she says if the beard is too long, to re-knit it in a smaller needle size, but I just didn't feel like doing another beard. I really like this one, and I think it's so funny that the beard almost hits the ground, and it sort of almost hits the ground. So I really like it this way, and I don't mind if the color work isn't too visible, but it's still a little bit visible. And then all we knit yesterday was the big nose, but that's her trademark, I think, so she has to have a big nose. And that's Gnocchi, the 9th mystery gnome, and I really, really like her. Somebody asked me in the comments what I use to make sure that they stand really well, and the answer was for the other ones, some don't, and with some I put like these plastic pellets in, and with some I put little like glass stones, but with some I put a proper stone into the bottom of the gnome, and that's what I did with her. I picked up a big stone that sort of has that shape. It's a bit smaller here, it's a bit wider here, but it has this length. This is the length of the stone, and that really makes her stand really nicely. Yeah, so the yarn I used is hand-dyed yarn by Wolldackel. The blue and the pink were 2 minis out of the advent calendar. The dark blue is leftover yarn from my Stephen West shawl. That was the, what was it called? Don't remember. And the white yarn is leftover yarn from some of the gnomes. That's by Mondschaft. Yeah, so that's the 9th mystery gnome. And this is also my May gnome. So because I knit the whole gnome in May, I'm going to, I still have to fill out the form. For the Year of Gnomes by Sarah Shearer, I can fill out the form that I knit her, and with my Ravelry link, and then yeah, I might win a prize. I might not, but that's okay. But this is my main gnome, and I'm knitting a gnome every month this year, as most of you will know. Okay, that was finished object number 2, and finished object number 3 is the star cushion that I'm knitting for my sister. And I really hurried to get this done because she wants to have the leftover yarn that's left over from this glitter yarn to put in the blanket that she's knitting at the moment. And I think I left the little ball of leftover yarn at home. I wanted to give it to her later today, but I think it stayed home. So I couldn't weigh it. I don't know how much is left, but it's a little more than with my star. And yeah, but it's not too much. It's probably between 5 and 10 grams. If I remember, I'll let you know next week. Or maybe I'll just put it on my Ravelry page and you can check there. Yeah, so this is the star cushion that I knit for my sister. I like to put buttons in the middle of the cushion so it doesn't get too round. It's sort of more star-shaped this way. And as you can see, I left the last yarn end. I haven't woven that in, and that's on purpose because I haven't shown it to her yet, and I'm not quite sure whether she wants it stuffed this way. So maybe she says she wants it a bit softer or flatter with less stuffing, or maybe she'll say she wants a bit more stuffing so it's a bit more rounded. I wasn't quite sure what she wanted, so I left the last bit of yarn so I could open it up again and I could put more stuffing in or pull some out the way she likes it. So I still have these silver star buttons. I'm really happy with those. And I'm happy that this is done. So basically, the knit along that we were doing is sort of officially over, but I never ever close the discussion threads in the Ravelry group for my podcast. So if you're still knitting cushions, star cushions, you can always add your pictures and show us what you're knitting. Yeah. So that's it for finished objects for today. Then on to works in progress. And I cast on a new pair of socks, and that's the Sock Madness Round 5 socks. And I'm a cheerleader now, so I'm not competing anymore. So by the time I cast them on, the round's already over. And the pattern for round 6 has already been sent to us. So I will try and cast them on this week. Yeah, I will still try to knit all the patterns for the rounds, if not the bonus patterns right now. I might knit the bonus patterns later. But anyway, the pattern for round 5 is called Unbearably Adorable by Renee Strauss. And I decided to use the skein of yarn that I got as a present with the subscription that I have with Opal. So if you do the subscription, you get 4 parcels every year. Every parcel contains 6 100-gram balls of sock yarn, and you don't know the color beforehand. So it's always a surprise. I always do unboxing videos, but I only do them in German because once I've opened the box, I can't do it again. So they are only there in German. But if you want to have a look at the colors, you can still watch the videos if you like. Yeah, and in December, very often they put in an extra skein of yarn, and that's usually a hand-dyed skein of yarn. And this year I got this color. So the subscription, the Abo colors are always the same for every parcel, except for this extra skein. They have several colors for that. And And this year I got a beautiful blue one, really like it, and I used that to start the unbearably adorable socks, and that's what they look like. You start at the toe, and then there's a crochet heart, not crochet, you knit a heart into the sock, and then if you're in the competition, you had to sort of embroider something in a contrasting color. I might do that, not too sure yet. And then for the leg of the sock, there'll be a 2-color pattern, but it's not like knitting with both colors at the same time, but it's called stacked stitches. And it means you only knit with one color at a time, but the color will still go up and down, and it will sort of look like hearts. So this is sort of the theme of the sock, but I think it also looks a little bit like waves, which is why I chose the blue yarn, and my contrasting color is going to be white. So I might do the embroidery in white on these hearts, and then I'll do the contrasting bit in the leg of the sock in white. Yeah, and the toes go different directions, the increases go in different directions, and the cables in the heart are just very slightly different for the left and the right sock, and I did that as per pattern. And yeah, so these are the round 5 Sock Madness socks. And then the only other sock I knit last week is this tiny little mini sock. I told you, or I showed you the 10-gram mini socks I knit during the holidays. I'm still working on the video that I want to do for the 10-gram socks, but I might actually do one of these tiny socks. This is a €1 coin. Just wanted to show you. You can put that in for when you go shopping, for the shopping cart. Yeah, so this is half the number of stitches, and in some bits half the number of rounds. So I might do one of those mini ones for the video, so I don't have to knit as much. So that's why I wanted to try this out. But this is probably less than 5 grams because I did fewer than half the number of rounds for the foot. Otherwise, it would have been too long. So with the leg, it's okay to have a fairly long leg because I can pull it down like this. Yeah, so I'll have to measure how many grams these are, and then I'll do a few more of those and hopefully one of them on video. And I did a green one because I'm going to help out for the organization who help women with ovarian cancer. They will be at one of the German yarn festivals, and I'll help out, and then I can sort of wear this like a brooch or something. I'll put it onto something, but it's just a green sock because they asked for green socks to donate for those women. Yeah, so that's all the socks I worked on last week. It's a bit weird. Yeah, but that's the way it is. The next project I worked on is another sock yarn project, and it's another of those subscription colors, the Abo colors, and this is for the pattern battle that we do with every parcel. One color is chosen, and then everybody who takes part has to knit with this color, but everybody has to knit a different pattern. And for this pattern battle, I decided to knit a little baby jacket, and this was the first bit that I knitted. It's a fun construction, and this is the second bit. I had already started this before the holiday, and now I sort of knit to the armhole and then started the first half of the of this side piece, and this turned out to be light blue, which is quite nice. So this is going to be this way. So this will be the one side, this will be the other side. They're really nicely different. And then I couldn't go on knitting because I misplaced my book. I don't know where I put it, and I need to read the instructions for the short row detail on the shoulder here. So I had to put it down, and I'll have to find the book before I can continue knitting on the little jacket. Yeah, and talking about jackets, I also knit, that's also sock yarn. This is merino sock yarn by Hansa Farm. this is all I have left of the second skein of the black yarn. And I'm knitting the Party Cardi by, is it Stephanie Lotven? I think so. So this is, for now, it's a black cardigan. I finished the black parts of the sleeves and I'm just adding length to the front and back. And then once I finish that, there'll be a rainbow kind of collar. It's not a true rainbow, it's just all the neon colors of the Wolldackel advent calendar from 2 years ago. So this is where I finished the first skein, and this is what I have knit so far. So I keep knitting and measuring and trying it on to try and talk myself into making it a bit longer before I start the ribbing. So I'll see how much more I can talk myself into knitting before I start the ribbing. I think I will have to start a third skein. I was kind of hoping to get by with the 2 skeins, but I think I'll start the third one. And I'm really looking forward to starting the colourful part of that jacket. Yeah, and that already brings me to the last project for today. As I said, I didn't knit on that many projects last week, but that's okay, I think. The last project I'm going to show you is something that I've been planning for, I think, 3 years now. I think it was 3 years ago that I was on holiday in a part of Germany that's called Lüneburger Heide. And Heide, I should have looked up. It's a word for a certain plant. It's a flower, kind of this color. So we did a bike tour through that landscape, and there was lots and lots of these flowers, both this and this color. And there's lots and lots of greens around with the grass and the leaves of this plant and the trees around. So I came home with these colors in mind, and I picked out those 4 colors from the Catania. By the way, this is the same yarn that I crocheted the dress out of. Could be the same greens I think the green's a different color, but this green is the same color as in the dress. So I put out those 4 colors, and I wanted to knit just a nice summer top as a memory for those holidays. And I had them lying there, and I kept thinking of different ways of combining the colors, different patterns I might put in, and I kept thinking about it and never did anything about it. And then last year I finally had the idea to try and knit a 4-color helix knitting. I don't know what the proper word for it is, but it means that you just knit all the colors one after the other, and you don't have you don't ever cross the yarns. Not quite sure how to say that. So you don't have a proper start of round or end of round. You just sort of knit one color after the other. Maybe if I show you how I did it, it becomes a bit clearer. So what I have here is the beginning of my piece. So I just knit the 4 colors on top of each other, and then I close it to I close the round, and now I'm just knitting all the 4 colors one after the other, and I don't have you can't tell where the beginning of the round is, so I'm never crossing the yarns. What you can see here is I tried to knit the same number of rounds of ribbing, but here I started the stockinette stitch, and here you can see where I change color. I always stop 2 stitches before the color ends, and then I slip these stitches, and then I knit with the next color. So now I'm going to knit the light green, and I'll stop with the light green here. I'll slip these stitches, and then I continue knitting with the light pink or rose color. Yeah, difficult to explain, but I think it's quite a fun thing. So I get these micro stripes. Yeah, and I'm knitting the whole top in the round until I hit the armhole, and then my plan is to knit a full round with the first color, then a 3/4 round with the second, then half a round, and then a quarter round. So I have the 4 colors at 4 different spots in the top, and then I'm going to knit I'm going to do V-necks for both the front and back, and then I want to have the different fronts and the 2 back parts in just one color. So I'm going to do those 2 colors for one side and then the 2 greens for the other side, and then I can choose whether I want to have the pinks on front or the greens in the front. That's kind of the plan I have at the moment. As I'm making this up as I go along, I'm not working with a pattern. We'll see how things work out. But I'm really, really happy that I finally started knitting this top that I've been thinking about for such a long time. And yeah, I'm really happy with the way it looks now. It'll be quite a contrast once I get to the upper bits where I just knit with one color. I hope it'll look nice, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that's everything for today. I have been thinking about a new knit along, and I think I would like to do a knit along just for little socks. You can either do 10-gram socks or you can do tiny socks like this. And I really want to hurry up with my tutorial video, just in case you haven't knit socks before. And the little ones are a really good place to start to try. And once you've done them, it's no big deal to do bigger socks and then knit socks for yourself or for your whole family and friends. Yeah, so that's probably going to be the next knit along as soon as I start the discussion thread on the Ravelry group. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!